Hey everybody, how's it going? Can you guys let me know if this is all coming through good? I did a live stream a while back and I had some major technical difficulties, so I'm trying to get that all sorted out tonight. I thought I would just do this like last minute live stream. I got some new equipment, talk about that. I released a new marketplace product today. We can talk about a little bit about that. And hopefully a few people are around tonight. Like I said, I didn't promote this at all. This was kind of like a last minute thing just to come on and chat with anybody who is around. So hopefully the video looks okay. Hopefully the audio is okay. Just let me know in the chat if it's sounding good. If the guitar's coming through okay. Barry says you can hear it just fine. That's great. Perfect. So how's everybody doing tonight? Not a lot here right now. Hopefully some more people will show up. Like I said, I didn't know how this was going to turn out tonight. Really last minute thing. Hopefully a few people can come by and check things out and just kind of ask me some questions and talk a little bit about all things music. I had some fun stuff happen this week, actually. I don't know if anybody saw the video where I talked about a new partnership I had with a really cool company called Warm Audio. Can you guys see this right here? It's kind of in the corner of the screen, right down there. I got a really nice stereo mic preamplifier, kind of a Neve style 1073, Neve 1073 style mic pre and EQ. Got a couple 1176 style compressors. I have my, I don't know if you see back there, I have my Rev Generator 100R amplifier, and I recently got the Rev 212 cabinet with vintage 30s, which I'm really pumped about. It sounds really good, man. The guys at Rev, really, really wonderful folks, and they're making some amazing products. I know, folks who watch my channel watch it for Helix content, and that's obviously not going to change. I'm a Helix guy. I use it for most sessions and whatnot, but I had a really cool idea that since I have that, and I also have a 112 Rev cabinet, which I'm going to probably do something cool with in the future, but I thought I would shoot some impulse responses for those, and I released those today on the Line 6 Marketplace. If you look in the description, there's a link to those impulse responses. It's a really kind of like a concise, small little bundle of 8 impulse responses, but really fine-tuned to how I kind of like things to sound. I've always been, anybody who follows my channel knows that I kind of use Helix stock cabs a lot, and that's not going to change. I really think the stock cabs are great, but there's one thing that we have that's really cool in the Helix is the Rev Gen Red and Rev Gen Purple amp models, right? And there's no actually kind of dedicated Rev cabinets. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to take some of the new gear I got, because it's all really top-end studio equipment, and shoot some really cool impulse responses for the Rev Gen. Oh, I'm seeing, sorry. So Scott's saying your voice is only on the left side. Man, I had this problem the last time. This is crazy. I wonder what's going on. Give me a second here. Let me see what I can do. Man, I had this problem last time, and I'm not sure what is going on with that. Man, let's see if I can pull up some settings here. Frustrating stuff. Let's see. Man, it tells me it's on, but let's see if that does anything. Does that make it any better, guys? Is the voice on both sides now? Let me know. That would be really cool if you can let me know. I know there's a little delay on the chat. Anyways, I'll go on. I think the meters are telling me that that's better now, so hopefully that's okay. Thanks for letting me know that, Scott. That's really appreciated, buddy. Yeah, so anyways, I shot these impulse responses kind of the way I wanted. I got some great new microphones. I have some right here. The folks over at Warm Audio were kind enough to work with me. I got this really cool kind of like Telefunken 251 clone. It's a tube mic. I mic'd the cabinet up with that. Another one of their kind of U47 style mics. I got them all right here. Hang on a second. Oh, good. The voice is good now. Oh, thanks, guys. That's awesome. Okay, I think I know what the problem was with all of that. So I got this kind of cool U47 style mic as well. Very, very cool stuff. This mic I'm talking through, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's kind of a better quality on the voice too. It's a Shure SM7B. I'm really kind of pumped to have that in the collection. But the reason I got that, and I have no affiliation with Shure, I just got that because it's a great broadcast mic, but it also doubles as a great mic to mic up guitar cabinets with. So I got that. And reach over there, one of my favorite mics of all time, which is from a company called, let me see if I can grab this out, Cascade. They make a ribbon mic called the Fathead, and really, really cool mic. So I grabbed this as well. And so I did basically a bunch of IRs using all of those microphones. And I was really happy with them. I made them in, basically the style I would make them with, and tested them out with clean amps, dirty amps, and really, really cool stuff. I'm really happy with the way they are working out. So I'm just seeing Gary asked, do they have anything like the SM7B? I don't think they do. They kind of make more like recreations of classic mics. Think the U47, the Telefunken 251. If you go to warmaudio.com, they have all their mics up there. And the thing about it is, something like a Telefunken 251 will, a recreation of that will run you $10,000 now. And theirs is like $800 or $900, something like that. Don't quote me on the price. And it comes, with the full shock mount, power supply, multi-pattern pickup pattern. Really, really cool stuff. Their 1176 copies are amazing. So what you're hearing me talk through is the SM7B through their WA273 preamp and EQ, which is like a Neve 1073 EQ, through the 1176 style compressor. So very, very cool stuff. So I thought, I have all this gear. I have these cool these cool cabs. So I spent a lot of years doing recording studio work where I was recording guitar cabs and whatnot. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to shoot some IRs, because the one thing that we don't have in the Helix is anything to go with our sort of Rev amp models. We don't have actual Rev speaker cabinets. So I thought, well, that'd be fun. Let's do that, right? So this is I don't know how the guitar is sounding. Hopefully the guitar is sounding okay. I'm using my Vigier Expert Strat style guitar here, but let me see if let me know if the scene changes okay. Okay, here, I'm kind of totally new to the whole, okay, that's giving you something totally different there, isn't it? Let me pull up this. That's better. That gives you my Helix name. So all I did here is I kind of pulled up my Helix HX Edit with the stock settings of the Rev Gen Red, right? And you'll see over here, I'm using, with those stock settings, the Fathead, which is the Cascade Fathead ribbon mic IR. So if I flip through these, you'll hear on these stock settings. And I have a few other ones here. The SM7B. This one was a different one. I did their U47 Junior, but it's a different sound. I purposely did a little bit thinner. So that I could also blend them. I did some blends. So the Fathead ribbon mic with the 47 Junior blended. That was kind of one of my favorite blends, I think, right there. The Fathead with the SM7B. The 251, which is the Telefunken 251 blended with the U47. And then I blended the 251 with the SM7B. And that was it. Yeah, so I got like 8 different little IRs there. I really love the fathead. And the fathead with the 47 Junior. Sorry, that's just the 47. This is the fathead and the 47 Junior. And I did a little track with those. But the neat thing is, if we, I'll just come back over to this here. I'm just kind of checking the messages here. You know what? I have this love-hate relationship with OBS and the whole live streaming thing. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do things, so I'm kind of dragging things around here. But I'll just go back to the chat here for a second. Gary Davlin said, I'm thinking about purchasing an SM7B. Honestly, Gary, this is the coolest mic. It's great for recording guitar cabs, but I was using, you know, this stuff here, these little lapel mics for all my videos. And this just isolates kind of the room sound and everything. I just love this mic. I wish I had purchased this like 2 years ago. It's a really cool mic. And like I said, the real reason I decided to go for it was because I can use it to also shoot some IRs. And, you know, if I get clients doing sessions who want me to record a real guitar amp rather than a modeler, it gives me more options as well to have these different microphones to throw on the cabinet and record. So, I mean, the odd time you get that where somebody just doesn't want, you know, to hear a digital modeler. I honestly, like for me, I'll just go modeler all day long because I've done the comparisons and I think that they are just as good as a wonderful, you know, all sort of, you know, whatever you want to call it, analog or true to life, you know, recording chain. But so Gary says, your voice sounds really smooth and warm. Yeah. And I really noticed that too. And it really kicked myself. I was like, man, for the last 3-4 years, I've been doing these videos. I really wish I had this microphone, you know? What else do we have here in the chat? Ridiculous Wonk says, I'm glad you're online. I love your channel. I wanted to say thanks for Helix content that convinced me to take the plunge. Oh, thank you so much. You know what, my pleasure. And I'm so glad. I just love when I hear anybody tell me that, you know, the videos have helped them in their journey with the Helix and whatnot. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Ben Bowman says, great cut through lead sound. Thank you so much. Yeah. And that, you know, the funny thing about that sound I was just playing through, that's literally just pulling up the Rev Gen Red model on the Helix, not touching it and throwing that new IR on it. And I really dialed those IRs in to work live in the studio. And the video I released today, which was a demo of it, is just those IRs just basically used in a mix and in the solo tracks, and you can hear them how they sound in the mix, and you know, no extra EQ or compression or anything like that. So that's how I like to work, you know, and I really like to get those sounding good. Used to do years ago. I had a studio. I used to record guitars all the time like that in the traditional way. So I thought it's about time maybe I dip my toe into the IR, you know, side of things. Although the stock cabs, I mean, I've always been a stock cab user. I've got nothing against them. I've done many videos about how there's no magic in impulse responses, but this is just kind of a different impulse response to use since we didn't have an actual Rev model for the Helix. I thought some folks might like that. So back to the chat. Scott Roos says, Michael Jackson's vocal mic of choice. Yes, that's the really cool thing about this. And you know, the funny thing is you'd think about an album like Thriller. What was the budget on that album? I don't know, but I can imagine it was ridiculously massive budget to do that. And they didn't choose, you know, some $5,000 microphone. They chose this like, you know, $400 dynamic mic. And I don't think anybody's going to argue that it was pretty good results on that album, I would say, you know. And how many albums did it sell? It's pretty ridiculous, right? Gary Davin says, I've noticed the SM7B is used by more and more people on podcasts. Yeah, and that's, you know, I noticed that too. And it's kind of crazy because I would always see it there and I knew it was a great mic. And I don't know. I love the idea, I think, of the lapel mic where I was free to like not maybe move back from the mic and have it, you know, be lost a little bit. So maybe I shied away a little bit from that because the lapel mic was always there, but then it had its own drawbacks. And then as soon as I grabbed this maybe a week or two ago, and I did some tests with it, it was just shocking to me. I went back and listened to the AB on the different, you know, the difference between videos I was doing with the lapel mic versus this. I was like, oh my goodness, this is just so unbelievable. It sounds, it gives you that kind of a radio voice, right? Which is always kind of cool. But I have nothing to do with the folks from Shure, but huge hats off to them for making such an incredible microphone. And all I did is I removed, the little windsock here off of it when I was recording the guitar amps, because I didn't really need it, but it works really well when talking into it, and you kind of avoid some of those plosives and the pops and the whatnot, right? So very cool mic, yeah. Cristiano says, I'm a big fan of your work. Could you ever do a Creedence preset? Pog, is that, I'm guessing maybe that's Pod Go, but thank you, first of all, so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, you never know. I've really gotten away a little bit from doing artist-specific tones in the last couple of years, but there's a part of me which wants to go back to it. It's an interesting thing because I get a lot of requests for, can you do tone from guitar player X or whatever. And the problem is, with, how do I put this, right? Creating tones is an interesting thing. This guitar has a sound to it. This guitar with my picking hand and fingers on it has a sound to it that's going to be different than if I gave you this guitar through my gear with your hands on it. And that's not to say that my hands are going to be better than yours. Yours might be better than mine. It does, it's not about that. It's just that they're all going to be different. So what I found a lot of times when I was doing the artist, sort of sound-alike tones, I guess maybe, I don't want to say the frustrating part about it, but the interesting part about it was that while I might get the vast majority of people say like, wow, that's so cool, it's really wonderful, and they would make their tweaks, you'd always end up with a pile of people come on and say like, oh, it doesn't sound like this, it doesn't sound like that. And then the question was always, well, what are you monitoring it through? What are you playing it through? Are you plugging it straight into the front of a Marshall valve state amp? Or are you plugging it into, a regular guitar cab with the speaker cab engaged on it? Or do you have your global settings set incorrectly? Or are you, and there's so many variables to it. And it's a really interesting thing because so many folks are playing through so many different situations with different guitars, different pickups, different hands, different monitoring systems. It really got to the point where I was like, wow, I don't know if it's worth keeping on with, artist specific tones, but it probably is. And I'll probably get back to it as well. It's a lot of fun to do. And I know a lot of people do enjoy it. So I probably will, but I have some other really interesting, cool stuff coming up as well. So back to these impulse responses for a moment. Let me see if I can get this going again. When I do this, I don't really see the chat, but I'm hoping you guys see when I share this that you see HX Edit up there. So I'm going to go back to like the fat head. So that's the ribbon mic. That's the Cascade fat head ribbon mic. All I've done is added in a tiny little bit of room reverb. Just, when we're recording direct like this, we want a little bit of ambience. And I put a dash of transistor tape delay on it. Nothing too crazy. I have my IR and there's my amp. So the neat thing about this is when I was making these IRs, I really went through and I tried a bunch of different style amps with it. So something like the Fullerton Norm, more of a Fender style amp. You'll notice I'm not changing the settings on these. I'm just pulling them up as they come up. The Grammatico Norm. Something like the US Princess. Kind of quiet. Let me crank the drive up a bit on that. working on a lot of different tones. The Interstate Z. Let me just crank the channel volumes up on these. Something like the Derailed Ingrid. Okay, let me just get that channel volume up there. So no matter what amp I went to with it, you know, even something like the Matchstick Channel 2. You know, crank the drive up. And even changing through the different IRs in this bundle. So that's the copy of the Telefunken 251. You know, really nice, warm sounding mic. The SM7. The U47 Junior. And then the blended ones, right? One of my favorites, like I said before, the Fat Head with the 47. Really works with a wide array of amps. The newest Mandarin Rocker just on its stock settings. You know, it works as well. Something like a Marshall, go to maybe the Britplexi Norm. Let's just crank up the gain on it. Put everything on 10 because we can and it's fun. It just works really nicely on a lot of different amps. Something like the German Mahadiva. Get that channel volume up again. There goes my pick. Good thing I have another one right here. So it worked really nicely on a real wide array of amps. You know? And a lot of different models in there. Really, really cool stuff. So sorry, I couldn't see the chat while I was going on about all of that stuff. Hopefully that was all coming through okay. Let's go back to the chat. So Ben Bowman said, Nuno B once said I got invited to play Eddie Van Halen's guitar. I plugged in, and when I played, I was disappointed right away. I sounded like, you know, that is so true, right? And you know what? And I think that's a funny thing. For a number of years now, doing the whole Helix tone video thing has been interesting because I think a lot of folks, I don't know, maybe they're looking for the magic bullet, right? The piece of equipment that makes them sound a certain way. And I think you get to a point where you realize that's not the ticket to getting that sound you're looking for, that sound you want, right? It's really going to come a lot from your practice and your hands and having everything in that department settled first. Now, not to say that the gear isn't important. Obviously it is, and being able to dial in a sound is important, but so much of it is from, you know, even just the notes we choose and how we react to, you know, a particular chord progression and how we pick the strings. I did a video about that a long time ago. I think I think it might have been like my top 5 tone tips, and very few of them actually maybe had to do with the actual settings on the modeler or the amp. It was more about your hands and your volume control and your tone control. Really unlikely things that people wouldn't have thought of, you know? So I totally agree with that. Scott says, US Princess is my current favorite Helix amp. You know what? I was really pumped when that amp came out. Was that in 3.0 or was that, I can't even remember when that came out. I should know that, right? Because I do work with the beta team and whatnot. But yeah, I was really pumped with that. I think it was 3.0. That amp really blew me away. And I did my US Princess Ultimate preset for the Line 6 Marketplace. And man, oh man, I just love that. I use that. That's the thing about a lot of my Marketplace presets. I use those on sessions all the time. I have a session coming up this week with a metal artist from Germany. And for all of his stuff that I've done, I always use my Metal Through the Decades pack. And I just love it. It just works great. And it's funny, every time I use those Marketplace preset packs for any sessions, the client, whether it's the producer, engineer, or artist, comes back and just like goes, yeah, you know, I always get the mix back and it's the same tone. They don't even touch it in the mix. So that's always a nice thing to get back and kind of go, okay, good. I'm actually getting those working the way that they should, you know, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, the US Princess is amazing. I've used that in a bunch of situations myself. So Super Guapo says, hi, Jason. Is there new products from Line 6 coming out in 2021? Thanks for the live stream. Well, thank you for coming. I don't know, and if I did, I can't say. I'm under NDA with them, so I can't disclose things. It's very, you know, as you can imagine, they don't want anybody, you know, knowing what's coming down the pipe unless they announce it, right? So I'm not really at liberty to ever talk about anything that I do know. I don't know anything at the moment, but I'm really, even if I did, I couldn't talk about it. So I can say that I'm sure sometime in the future, we're going to see amazing things from them because they've never disappointed in the past, as far as I'm concerned. I love all their products. And I mean, I use them on a daily basis. Back to playing live now. I've been back out with my Power Cab 112 and 212 with the Helix or the HX Stomp. And man, oh man, it just doesn't disappoint. Even live, that's the same thing. I use my Marketplace presets. I load them in. I don't miss playing through great guitar amps, and I have some great guitar amps, but you know, it's so much easier to just go with the Helix and you know, that route, right? Do you have any more? Gary asked, do you have any more albums in the works? You know, it's really funny. That's the thing a lot of people don't know, and I've been almost thinking about doing some videos about my solo albums, just because that's really how I got started. And as we all know now, the whole you know, recording industry with Spotify and streaming and whatnot, there's really no return on your investment of doing, you know, a recording unless you're touring. And then, you know, with the last year and a half of what we've all been through, there's not as much opportunity for that. Hopefully that's coming back soon, but it is very tough. It's really tough. I mean, I got so much music I want to express and write and let out there. But it's really tough because there's a lot of investment of time, not only time, but money as well. I always try, anybody who's followed my albums that I do have out, I always try to work with some really top quality musicians. I've made good friends in the industry. I've done a lot of work with guys like Kenny Aronoff and Tony Levin, Marco Miniman, who's become a very dear friend. We work together a lot. You know, and Brian Beller, who's Marco's bass player in the Aristocrats. But at the same time, you know, these folks don't work for free, nor should they. So it's an expensive undertaking. And then you put the album out and, you know, you're left to the pittance of iTunes and Spotify pennies that come out from the streams, which, you know, it's I don't know. It's a sad thing because it shouldn't be about the money. I agree with that. It should be about the art and the music. But at the same time, there is a certain underlying expense to putting an album out. So I've been trying to pick away at doing singles and releasing those more just for the love of it, rather than thinking there's going to be any sort of payback from it or even covering the cost of it. So yes, I would love to do another album in the near future, whether that's going to happen or not. And then you have other things that take your time. You know, when you have sessions coming in that are paying real dollars, when you have other things you can be doing that are more lucrative in that sense, just to put food on the table, then you tend to lean towards those things. And I hate to say it that way because it sounds like, oh, all you care about is the money. And but it's not that, right? It's at the same time, everybody has to, earn a living, right? And if this is your chosen profession, then you do sort of have to guide your time towards something that's going to be, pay the bills. But having said that, yeah, I have a real desire to get back to writing, and I have been doing a little bit of it. So we'll see what happens. I would love to put some new albums out, but I do have 7 albums out, and anybody who wants to listen to those, you can go to my website, just mylastname.com, Sadites, Sadites.com. They're all there. You can purchase them. You can stream them. They're on Spotify, so they're all out there. But yeah, I guess the short answer is yes, I would love to get back out there and do another album. And I will at some point for sure. Absolutely. Ben says, love the new Mandarin. Yeah, that's a great amp model. When that came out too, and I was doing some beta work on that, I was really digging that album as well, for sure. Scott Roos says, hi, Super Guapo. Only Line 6 employees would be aware of future products. He wouldn't. Yeah, and that's basically what I said. Absolutely, yeah. And it's not unfortunate. It's just the way it is, right? And it's understandable that that's the way it is. Ben Bowman says, regarding your solo albums, I'm kind of jealous that you've worked with Tony Levin. Yes, I feel honored, and I feel very blessed as well. Sorry. To have been able to work with Tony. Tony's a fine human being, a real gentleman. A really interesting story about that is on my album from, I'm going to say 2009, I believe was released. It's an album called Weave. Tony played with Marco Miniman on a couple tracks of mine. He played Chapman stick. He played a little bit of bass, some fretless bass. Did a bang up job. That was the first time that Marco Miniman and Tony Levin actually ever played together on a recording. And then I think it was a couple of years later, I was hanging out with Marco, and he was giving me the inside scoop on a band he was working with that was called Levin, Miniman, and Rudess, which was, as you can imagine, Tony Levin, Marco Miniman, and Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater. So I was kind of laughing about that the first time they played together was on one of my albums, and I thought, oh, that's so cool. And of course they did just an incredible job. Tony is probably one of the most unique bass players out there. And a lot of times when I would work with him, he would just sort of make the decision to work on the Chapman stick. And, who am I to question Tony Levin about any of this? He sends you back a Chapman stick track, you nod and you go, yes, thank you very much. And it sounds amazing. And you incorporate that into it and you go with it. Right. And interesting, when I started working with Vigier guitars, I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but I did. One thing I wanted to do is the first guitar I got from the folks at Vigier was their fretless surf fretter, which is off camera. It's over there in the corner. And I'd never really played at any length a fretless guitar. And I wanted to challenge myself that within 3 days of getting it, I wanted to do a recording with it without practicing more than those 3 days. And I chose to do a cover version of Steve Vai's The Attitude Song. And I remember my A&R friend over at Vigier, DJ, I sent him an email saying that, and he says, man, are you sure you want to do that? Like, you might want to get the fretless first because it's pretty interesting to play if you haven't really spent any time on it. But the reason I bring this up is because I had my friend Marco play drums on it, and Tony Levin played Chapman stick on it. And within 3 days, I actually just spent a day recording the guitars on fretless guitar and coming up with solutions to like Steve Vai's, whammy bar antics and whatnot on fretless, which was very interesting to say the least. But I got it done, and it's up on my channel. I mean, I should put a link up again at some point, but you can just search, Attitude Song fretless. I think I'm the only guy on YouTube that's done a version of the Attitude Song on fretless guitar. And it was a lot of fun to do. But Marco plays drums, Tony plays Chapman stick, and I do the million guitar overdubs on it. And then I just did like a video with the main guitar parts. And I believe it's up on Spotify too, actually. So if you wanted to listen to that, you could go give that a listen. That was a blast to do. That was a lot of fun. And, that the other thing, I'm just super happy in the last year or so to be using the Vigier guitars. It's funny because I switched over to Vigier, and a lot of folks were like, oh, you're just hopping guitar companies. But I met the folks at Vigier At the last NAMM show before the whole world basically shut down, I guess that would have been 2019. And I went to their booth and just sort of, they had a Helix at the booth. And I was like, oh, you guys are using the Helix? And I started up a conversation with them, tried a couple of their guitars and realized right away there was something very special about these instruments. And honestly, I can say, like, I will never go anywhere from these guitars. These guys, as far as I'm concerned, make the finest guitars out there. They've kind of taken the guitar, looked head to toe on the guitar, and fixed all the problems that ever existed. That's for me. I mean, again, anybody who watches my videos, will know I always say that's my opinion. Others may disagree, and that's fine, because I mean, everybody has different use cases for everything. But one of the things, there's no truss rod, and some people don't like that, right? And that's perfectly fine. But it's a 90% maple, 10% carbon fiber neck, so there's no truss. You can't adjust these, but they also never move. They just don't go out of tune. It's amazing. And living up in Canada, where you go from like ridiculously humid summers to ridiculously dry, cold temperatures in the wintertime, that's really nice. I don't have to set up my guitars. They just stay in tune. The necks are always perfect. Just a lot of little things, they have locking systems on their input jack, so that's not going to come out in the middle of a gig. Their tremolo system is fine-tuned, stainless steel frets. They have a little mute behind the nut and a 0 fret, and you don't get any of that kind of pinging sounds ever. They have brass, metal inserts into the body for your strap pins, so these are never going anywhere. It's not just wood screws. Just a lot of little details that really impressed me, and I remember kind of going, wow, this is amazing. And then I picked them up and played them out. Oh my God, these necks feel amazing. And then I've kind of become, friends with Ron Thal, Bumblefoot, and he's been a long time endorsee of the Vigier brand and is very good friends with them. And him and I did a live stream together not too long ago, and him and I got chatting about it before, and he said the same thing. He's like, how about those necks, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, it's just amazing. So they're really incredible guitars. They're not inexpensive guitars by any stretch of the imagination. They are expensive. I do have a new one coming too. I'm not going to say anything about that until I do a video, but really, really excited about that. They are very cool. So yeah, I mean, and I've been with a couple other guitar companies, and I'll never say anything bad about them. Some of the other guitar companies I've been with, like Godin, they're fellow Canadians, right? They're out of Quebec up here in Canada. I have to say they're probably the nicest human beings on the planet, and they are making amazing instruments. There was no reason that I would ever not want to play them. In fact, I still have a Godin Telly they sent me to check out, which is really, really an amazing instrument, especially for the amount of money you're paying for it. This was like, to me, beating out some of the big name Tellys out there for a fraction of the price. So the Godin folks are just wonderful, wonderful people, make wonderful instruments, and one of the biggest guitar manufacturers in the world. Totally different ball of wax than something like the Vigiers. But there's so many great guitars out there. I mean, nobody can say that one is, oh, this one's amazing and everything else is garbage. No, that's nonsense. I don't buy into that. I love everything. I still have a Yamaha again, it's off screen over here, but I have their SA, is it the 2200, I believe. It's like their Gibson ES335 model. I love that guitar. I'll never get rid of that. That is just a wonderful, wonderful instrument. Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, but I mean, for the most part, I am just digging the Vigiers. I have the fretless, I have the Expert, I have 2 Excaliburs, and I also have the GV Wood, which is a semi-hollow body Les Paul style with Amber pickups, which is a company out of Germany, I believe. Beautiful pickups, beautiful pickups. So one of them has DiMarzios, one of them has Duncans. I believe this has DiMarzios in it. Some of the area pickups, beautiful. Like, I just love. I love the tones out of this guitar. I really kind of can't get enough of this one. Every time I grab a guitar to do anything, I'm grabbing this. I've been playing this one live. Even, it's kind of funny, even in maybe like inappropriate situations, where I shouldn't be playing a Strat style guitar. I'm like, yeah, but it just feels so good and it's working so well. I end up grabbing it. But anyways, I love the folks at Vigier. They're awesome folks to deal with. They make amazing instruments. That's all I'll say about it. And anybody who wants to check them out, definitely should. I mean, I'm sold on them for sure. But Scott says, I've had problems with any Godin guitars I've had. Oh, that's unfortunate. I've been lucky, I guess. I had a pile of them for a while. I maybe had one that had a little bit of an issue. What was it? I can't even remember. That's a bunch of years ago now. But yeah, okay. The other good thing I'll say about that is with Godin, when you do talk to them, if there is a problem, they will make sure it's right. And that's my experience with them anyways. But yeah, I fortunately haven't had any issues with them. But Ben Bowman says, I've always been a Fender guy. Got a Strat, J Mask, a Sig Jazz Mask. My number one guitars now, a JT Variax. Hooked up into the Helix. It's great. Yeah, the Variax is amazing. I have a Variax as well. Since I've been doing work with Vigier, I haven't been using the Variax as much, but the Variax is a really, really amazing platform. I mean, it really is. You know, where else can we, at the flick of a knob, have different tunings and acoustic guitar, different pickups, and program it all, right? And my good buddy Chad Husky is the master of the Variax. Anybody who is into the Variax, definitely search up Chad Husky on YouTube. He is the absolute master of the Variax, and he also has, I believe, some Variax bundles you can purchase off the Line 6 marketplace, which you can load into your Variax that sound incredible. I actually did a live stream with Chad on my channel where I think we labeled it something like, you know, Chad teaches Jason how to Variax or something like that, because I think it's maybe a year and a half or even a couple of years ago. Time's flown by so fast, but I think a couple of years ago he kind of took me through showed me the ropes, shall we say, on the Variax, and it was very eye-opening. He's a real master with that, and he has some great tones. So yeah, check that out on the marketplace if anybody wants to dive deeper into the whole Variax side of things. It's very cool. He's an awesome guy with it. Scott says the B string would break multiple times during a gig. I've been replacing the issue. That's strange, eh? Wow. And you know, sometimes it's that single guitar, right? Who knows? Overall, you know, I think they make great instruments. But again, you know what? There's always those anomalies or outliers sometimes that can be problematic for sure. Scott says Chad is amazing with the Variax. Yeah, he absolutely is. I bow to him when it comes to that, and he does an amazing job with it. So definitely check out his channel. Go give him a sub. Check out his marketplace Variax presets. They're really, really cool. He was kind enough to send them to me a while back when he was releasing them, and I tried them out. I was like, wow, this is awesome. He spent so much time with it, and really, knowing Chad, when he plays live, it's always Variax, Helix, Power Cab. I believe he's using the Power Cab too, or just direct to board, and it's done, you know. And so he has some very cool sounds. And we'll always talk to him about different guitars, and he's like, yeah, whatever, I got my Variax. So it is what it is, which is really, really, really cool. Ben says, yes, programming MIDI is the best part. Yeah, it's so flexible, right? I mean, it's just crazy with the tunings and just, I mean, there's so many things you can play with and integrate into your Helix presets and have them switch with snapshots and whatnot. It's just wild. And then, you know, on top of that, the Power Cab, right? You can do the same thing with the Power Cab, where you can have, you know, it change with different snapshots and whatnot too. And Ben says, yes, Chad has some great vids on the Variax. Yeah, he absolutely does. I've done the odd one, but I mean, it's just pointless when Chad is out there doing what he does, you know. Scott says, I'm probably too aggressive when playing guitar. I think Godin requires legs. Yeah, that's possible too. Who knows, right? We all play so differently. And that's the interesting thing, right? And that's why I was kind of alluding to before about making tone videos, is that it's a really interesting thing. And it's a video that I talked about before, is even the way that we attack with our pick, you know, or the pick that we use. I did a video a while back where I'm using these picks from a company called Red Bear. They're rather expensive picks, but I've kind of got addicted to them recently. It's the one I dropped down here actually too. They're a synthetic tortoise shell, shall we say, right? They've kind of tried to mimic the sound of tortoise shell without, you know, the problems that come along with using tortoise shell. And you know, a lot of the folks that I deal with talking about online, there's a lot of them, about different tones and how we can make the Helix sound a certain way, or how we can make guitar sound a certain way. maybe don't realize that, just in the way that we angle our pick, or whether, I'll do this a lot where I tuck the pick away and so many tones right from the same settings, same IR, same everything, right? I don't even remember what I'm on there as far as I'm on the German Mahadiva, right? With a kind of a dirty sound. And then, if I play that quietly with... just using our fingers and different pick techniques and whatnot, we can really get a lot of tones out of it. And I think that sometimes that's what some folks are missing, maybe, that haven't played as long or don't realize how useful it can be to just use our hands, right? So yeah, it's an interesting point to make as well. Gary Devlin says, I've been purchasing expensive picks lately, but the different materials make so much difference with playability and sound. Yes, 100%. So for years and years and years, I used these guys, Jim Dunlop little stubbies, the 2mm ones. So, sorry, I dropped my favorite one here. Hang on a second. This is one of the latest Red Bear ones I received, which is their little jazzer, I believe. So, what I liked about the little stubbies is they were really tapered. You can kind of see a sharp point on them. Now I'll go to the Red Bear. I don't even know if you would notice a difference. I hear a difference and I feel a difference. The thing about the Red Bears is they're like $30 a pick or something like that. So I have them on my desk here for studio work, and I'm afraid to bring them out to gigs and whatnot because you don't want to drop one of those and lose it, right? But I love the feel and the sound of them, and I've just in the last year or so I've become addicted to them. This was my first one I bought, and I actually had them since it was so expensive. I don't know if you can see that, but I had them put my name on it, and it actually sat on my desk, kind of begging to be used for a number of years, maybe a couple of years. I don't even remember when I got it. I remember trying it, and it was so different than the stubbies I was used to that I kind of shied away from using it for a long time. And then I always felt guilty because I spent so much money on it. Not that it was like life-changing money or anything, but I always felt like I should be playing with that pick, right? And then finally I said, I'm going to force myself to play with it. And then I fell in love with it. Now I can't go back to it. I mean, if I had to play with the stubbies, it's fine. The stubbies wear out, though. These really don't. They really are durable, and they last a long time. Although you have to watch with moisture. If you're a heavy sweater, it kind of deteriorates the pick a little bit more. But but I really like the feel and the tone of these ones. So anybody, probably the most famous user of them is Guthrie Govan. I think he has his own signature model. And that's actually who originally turned me on to these. I was hanging out with Marco and Guthrie and the Aristocrats after one of their shows. And I remember Guthrie showing me this pick, and I was like, well, that's interesting. So I ordered one. You know, the whole endorsement thing works, right? And then it sat on my desk for a couple of years, and now I use them, though. So there you go. It all came around, right? Scott Roos says, it's amazing the details that go towards your tone. I find even using different picks can make a big difference. Yeah, exactly. So I didn't see that comment before. I just went on my big ramble on about that, but 100%. And, you know, they're not giant differences, and maybe other people may not even notice them, but we notice them, right? And when we're playing, and that little difference is what, you know, brings us up a notch to kind of go, yes, that's what I was missing, or, you know, anyways, whatever, you know, it's a game of inches, right? And probably a point of diminishing returns as well. But once we get to a place where we're really comfortable and happy, then hey, great, we'll stay there, right? So if that means a $30 pick, then that's what it means. I don't even know the guys at all from Red Bar. I'd love to meet them someday because I really enjoy what they do, but we'll see what happens. Gary says, different pick materials also cause me to play differently, which can lead to new things. Oh, 100%, right? I mean, and you know, that's a funny thing. I don't know what I have kicking around here. I've got picks all over the place here, but yeah, I mean, if I'm going to do an acoustic thing where I want a wispy, strummy tone, obviously I may not go with this, or maybe I will, depending on if it's giving me what I want. But sometimes just, yeah, looking for like a thinner, wispier pick maybe is going to be the thing, right? So absolutely, you know, and those are all points of inspiration, I guess we could say, much like a tone. Different pick can inspire different things. So I totally agree with that. That's 100% true. Matt Krill. Hey, Matt, how's it going, buddy? Good. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it, man. Scott says hello to Matt as well. Yeah. So that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yeah. So like I said, I was just kind of wanting to talk a little bit about these IRs that I just put out. Let me see if I can go back to the screen. I'm so new at this OBS thing and doing the whole live streaming thing. I have friends of mine that are so good at it, and I'm just a total hack at it. But anyways, I hope you see HX Edit up on the screen. So here you see the bundle of IRs. So these are available on my website, www.sadites, like my last name, SADITES.com, and I have a little shop there where I have some presets. And these IRs are available there. They're also available on the Line 6 Marketplace, which I have the link to in the description for this video. But yeah, I was really kind of digging it. What I did when I was making them, I dialed them in using the Rev Gen Red and Purple because it's a Rev cabinet. These are Rev cabinets, right? Which, I don't even remember which IR I'm on here now. Let's go back to the Fathead. I'm going to actually switch over to some humbucker pickups. This is another one of my favorite Vigier guitars, which is their Excalibur. Right, so that is the Fathead IR of the Rev Gen pack I just put out of the Rev. I call it the RAV 212 just to avoid any issues. The red model. And again, these are just with stock settings, right, on those models. I mean, even with something like a Mesa style amp, Cali rectifier. Yeah, so it really, regardless of what amp, it was working really nice on the Placator Dirty. I hate that it comes up with the C45 switch engaged. I've never liked that for some reason. So that's just the placator as it comes up with the stock settings without the C45 on, with my new IR from my Rev IR pack, which is just the fat head mic. Now, if we go through the different mics this is the Warm 251, which is a Telefunken 251 tube microphone. If we go through them again, this is the SM7B that I'm speaking into right now. And then the thinner mic that I did, the Warm 47 Junior, which I made sound a little thinner to blend with the other one. A little edgier. And then some blends with those. The Fathead and the 47. You guys are probably hearing some bleed through with my mic here, my vocal mic, right? So it's not an ideal setting, but I did do the demo video today with it. And yeah, it's out there if you want to take a listen to it. So Matt Krill says, Iris sounded great on the playthrough video. Thanks so much, Matt. Appreciate it, man. I really, really do appreciate that. That's awesome. It's bigger, but the Cortex Fin pick is great. Cortex Fin, I'm not familiar with that pick, actually. Oh, my buddy Steve is in. How's it going, Steve? Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Appreciate that, man. How's everything going? Matt says, Steve, QC live video was super cool. Yeah, that was awesome, man. And I'm yet to try one of the quad Cortexes. Steve is way ahead of me on that. Congratulations on that. And yeah, that's awesome, man. I kind of want to try one, but at the same time, I'm just really happy with the Helix. So yeah, I don't know. You know, we'll see what happens, but that's awesome, man. There's so many cool modelers out there. I had an FM3 for a while. Love it. I've been using the Amplitude 5 software as of late as well, and it's been really cool. Really, really, really good stuff. I've said it so many times in so many videos, which it's a really great, wonderful time to be a guitar player. We have so many great options, right? I think the thing I love about the Helix is the workflow. It's interesting because I've been a longtime Cubase user for studio work and doing sessions and my own albums and whatever audio work I do. And I couldn't imagine moving to another DAW. That's not to say that any of the other digital audio workstations are bad. I just couldn't imagine the whole learning curve. It's much like video editing. I used to use Magix, and then a good mutual friend of Steve's and mine got both Steve and I onto using Premiere Pro. And when I switched, it was like, oh my goodness, this is like starting all over again, right? So you get these kind of situations where you have, you just can't face starting over and going from scratch and once you have a workflow going. So I could imagine Steve could probably speak to that going to a new modeler like the QC is probably like, wow, where do I go? And unless they've laid it out really well and it's really easy to use. But yeah, that's awesome. And I have to give a huge shout out to Steve and Jessica. Hey, Jess, how's it going? They both were kind enough to send me super chats. That's really cool, guys. Thank you so much. That's awesome. You guys are good friends. That's really cool. I hope you guys are doing well. Anybody who doesn't know Steve or Jess, please go check out their socials. Steve has a great YouTube channel. He's a wonderful guy. Jessica is his wife, and she's an incredible country singer. Please go hit up their Instagram and just search them up. They're awesome folks. We've become good friends over the years, and love those guys to death. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for coming by. SM7 brings out the woodiness of the guitar, was what Ben says. Yeah, the SM7 is a really cool mic. It's got that low-end announcer voice, if I get right in on it, right? And that proximity effect, which can be really used in an interesting way on miking guitar cabinets. And I was really happy with it. That's one of the reasons I pulled the trigger on it. It's like, this is so much better for doing the video work. And also this little boom arm here that you see, this is from Warm Audio, the same folks I just made a partnership with the studio gear that I'm using as well. They make some just amazing stuff, man. This boom arm is just incredible too. It works just beautifully. I'm liking this whole setup. But yeah, the SM7 is just a wonderful microphone. Like I said, hey, Michael Jackson used it for Thriller, right? As somebody pointed out, how can it be bad, right? So who else? Steve says Premiere was the best decision ever. Absolutely. And it was so terrifying for me to switch to Premiere Pro to do video editing on, but now I couldn't imagine going back to what I was using before, because it would feel foreign to me after the fact too, right? And it's such a powerful tool, and yeah, I'm so happy with it. So, and I know Steve and I are both doing it, and thanks to our good friend Brian, who turned us on to that, and has also, I got to give a shout out to Brian. I'm sure Steve would agree, the tech support that he's always offered us. he's always been there in emergency situations where we call him up and like, Brian, this isn't working or that's not working, and he's always there for us. Brian Adams, not the Brian Adams, but Brian's just an awesome dude. Scott says lots of familiar names popping up in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome. So much fun to see. Jessica's there. Hi. Thanks for always supporting us too. Always a pleasure. Love you guys and love what you guys do, and definitely check them out. And if you guys are ever wherever Jess and Steve are playing a show, be sure to grab some tickets. Or do you guys not have a live stream going on soon? I thought I just saw you guys announce that you have that. So put a link to that in the chat too, if you want, and go check that out and support those guys. They're awesome. So that's always fun. Ben, thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really, really appreciate that. Thomas says, yes, I watch their gigs. Awesome. Yes, that's absolutely true. Matt says, nice to see artists returning back to live gigs. Yes. I've been starting to play again myself as well. And there's no better feeling right now than to get back out there and just, all we're doing, it's funny. I just, with some buddies of mine, said, let's get a cover band going. People want to hear some live music. And we've been playing at a local buddy's brewery here in town. And we've been doing these outdoor gigs, and they've just been growing and packed. People are starving to get back out, socialize, be together, listen to some live music. And it's been absolutely amazing. So, we've got some more of those things coming up, and it just feels really good to get back out. So I can imagine Steve and Jess both would say the same thing. It's probably a great feeling to get back out on stage and do their thing. Yeah. So anyways, so what else here? Steve Starlight says best tech support. I think he's referring to Brian, and yes, Brian is the king with that. He works with this software on a regular basis and does amazing things. He's an awesome dude and so incredible. Steve says congrats on the band too, and that eruption video. Oh, the eruption video. Okay, so there's a story behind the eruption video. The first gig we played, we had about a 3-week rehearsal space, and it was all just about getting out, getting some people out to the brewery and having a blast and enjoying ourselves. And so we were picking songs that everybody kind of knew, so that we could get on stage and do them without too much rehearsal time and too much rigmarole of, making sure, we weren't going to pull off like, Rush's Moving Picture album or a whole Dream Theater album or anything like that. So we decided to just pick tunes we all knew. So when somebody threw out, let's do You Really Got Me by Van Halen, I was like, oh, that'd be so much fun. I haven't done anything off Van Halen 1 in ages. And I thought it was going to end there. And I believe the night before the gig, it was a Thursday night, we were actually at the, said brewery that we were playing at. And we were sitting with a buddy of mine, Paul, who said, well, you can't do You Really Got Me without playing Eruption before it. And I was probably a couple beers in, and I was like, oh, give me a break. I'm not playing Eruption. I haven't played that in years. If I've ever played through the whole thing, I don't know it. Anyways, long story short, they kept riding me that night about it. And Friday morning, I got up and spent some time, and I figured out Eruption from front to end and played it at the gig that night. And yeah, so somebody captured a video of it. So I sent that to Steve last week because I was laughing. It was like, I don't know. Honestly, I'm trying to think back if I had ever played all of Eruption through from front to end before, but when somebody asks for it, you got to do it. So that was so much fun. And I love those types of things where you kind of push yourself to do, to do last minute new things, which, it turned out great. And it was really funny. It was a real crowd pleaser. People, I don't think were expecting it. And it kind of came across pretty good. And yeah, it was fun anyways. But so now it's become a staple in it. And now I got to keep my chops up to actually pull that off. So fun stuff for sure. Ben says, no problem. You're one that got me into the Helix. Oh, thanks so much. It's always good to hear that. And I hope you're enjoying the Helix and hope you're enjoying that whole experience. It's an amazing experience using the Helix, I got to say. I've been doing some videos lately for different gear, and I'll shoot stuff with the Helix just sort of in the meantime while I'm laying down some tracks or writing music. And I always kind of go, why would I ever go away from this? You know, like the tones are just incredible. They work wonderfully, and I just can't imagine myself straying from it. Gives me everything I need. Scott says, Jess and Steve, if you ever do any gigs in Nova Scotia, I'll be sure to attend. Love your music. Scott, you're in Nova Scotia. I didn't realize that. That's pretty interesting. A little bit east of where I am, but that's so cool. Hopefully things are sane out there and going well. So anyways, I just, what have we been on here for? Where's my timer here? Oh, man, we've been on over an hour. I'm probably going to pack it in for now. I just wanted to pop on and do a real last minute live stream. I should probably do more of these. I haven't done these a lot. Last live stream I did, I had some horrible technical difficulties. Hopefully that this one was better and that it worked. You know, everything was smooth, and I hope the tones came through, and I hope the sound was good and whatnot. This is really not my forte, doing the whole live stream thing, but I really do enjoy it. And thank you guys so much for coming out and spending some time. And thanks so much for the what do we call these? The super chats. Man, I can't remember the names of these. Thanks so much for those guys. That's really appreciated, and is always nice to see come in. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Check out the new Impulse Response Pack I put up on Marketplace. Like I said, the link is in the description below, and it's also available on my website, which I believe the description is down below as well. So I think an hour is good enough for a live stream. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And let me know if you want me to do another one of these at some point, and we can talk about different things. So that's awesome. And next time, I think what I'll do is I'll schedule it and actually promote it. I just, like, literally an hour before this decided, let's do a live stream tonight and see what happens. I think I wanted to work out the bugs on the technical difficulties of the last stuff and try out the new mic and see how all that stuff worked. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. I'm going to sign off now, and I'll have some other cool content coming up this coming week. Although it's a long weekend, I may take the weekend off and just kind of enjoy and spend some time with some friends. Thanks again, guys. Ciao for now.